Well, talking of summits, Germany hosted the G7 summit for 3 days, and along with the leaders, diplomats, delegates and representatives, a large number of people assembled to protest against the leaders. One of them was the Brave Movement, a group of protesters calling for action against child sexual violence. Our principal diplomatic correspondent brings us this ground report. This is Munich, Germany. And these protests are against the G7 leaders. The members of Brave Movement are calling on the G7 to act against child sexual abuse and violence.
I'm standing here in Munich where there are protests taking place, protests on other issues which the protesters would like be dominated at the G7. One, of course, is the abuse, child abuse. Let me speak to Mr. Paul, who is the co-founder of this movement and, of course, doing protests here in Munich. So what would you like to say to the G7 leaders?
We are adult survivors of childhood sexual violence who are stepping up and speaking out and demanding bold action from our leaders. This is a scourge on humanity. There are 1 out of 5 girls, 1 out of 10 boys in the United States, in Germany, in the United Kingdom, in India, in Nepal, in countries all over the world that are experiencing sexual violence while they're children.
The Brave Movement is a global campaign that aims to end all forms of childhood sexual violence by 2030. It is led by 15 survivors and allies, and they are demanding bold and transformative action from leaders of G7 to rapidly scale comprehensive programs of prevention, healing and justice for the victims. The G7 2022 communique mentions the concerns over human rights violations and abuses, including sexual and gender-based violence. But for the Brave Movement's campaign, it is not enough. They want concrete commitment and action. They want an initial investment of at least $1 billion per year for the establishment of End Violence Fund. Legislate to create a safe internet where children and adolescents are free from sexual violence, and survivors counsel to advise governments on actions that they take to permanently end the sexual violence.
It is a pandemic that has lasted for so many years all around the world. Thousands and millions of children are being sexually abused every day, and it is time for the leaders of this world to be able to take action and say we want prevention, healing and justice. And it is important to know that in this topic you cannot have a middle ground. You're either part of the solution or you're part of the silence.
It's not normal that thousands, millions of people are dying because of child sexual abuse. It has to end. In the G7 countries, 92 million survivors of child sexual abuse. There are 92 million survivors. It means more than the whole population of France.
The clear message is to send a message to the G7 leaders that they need to also focus on other issues, not just get focused or perhaps bogged down by one particular issue. In fact, there is a cartoon which has been put up which talks about that we need to start now. We have a picture of Chancellor Scholz, while other G7 leaders, Johnson, Macron, Kishida, and other leaders, the US President and the Italian Prime Minister present. And of course, this is to send a message to these leaders who have gathered here in Germany to talk about global issues, but the protesters want the focus be on other issues as well. With video journalist Siddhant Sibbal for WION in Munich, Germany.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.